Well, here we are on a nice crisp morning in Canberra. Morning, mate, how are you? So we've got the jackets on, but we've got the heaters on. It's not bad in the shed this morning.
No, it's not too bad at all. I got up about 5:30 and turned the heaters on for you.
Good for you. So, new series and something special. So, what I've been able to do is to be able to put together a program with PPG and Merca to be able to bring to you guys a collection of videos that will show you the painting process from start to finish. And to do that, I needed to have a car to do, and I didn't have one, but our good friends at Perry's Garage, Adam and Kylie, being primarily Adam, working on this Camaro behind us. So it's a 71.
Yep,
right?
71 Camaro.
So I don't know my Camaros that well, but I'm about to find out. So Adam dragged out the manual yesterday to show me how the thing goes together, because obviously we're going to have to do all of that when it comes to us to be painted. So what we're going to do firstly is as a bit of an introduction, Perry's Garage is a home-based business, and I see it in today's termini as a bit of a side gig.
Yeah, a bit of a side hustle.
A side hustle. And that's come about through, Adam and Kylie both have good full-time jobs, but they have Perry's Garage based at home, a bit like my setup in Wollongong, where first of all, obviously we built Tailspin here.
We did.
And I used to commute to Canberra and help these guys build Tailspin. And of course from there, they've been doing bits and pieces for other people, where now you're doing full cars. And the last one out, or the second last one out maybe, was the Camaro.
Yeah, that'd be about right, the grey Camaro, Jason's Camaro.
So we've got a nice picture of it there. So it's a real pro street style car.
Yeah, sort of aiming for the pro touring style feel. That's what Jason really likes, is a pro touring
that was
feel.
my error. So yeah, so it's not a pro street, a pro tourer. And it won pro tourer, didn't it, at some of that?
Yeah, the first year it was there. In the elite hole, it got top pro touring, and I think it also got pro touring engineered as well that year.
Awesome. So obviously the Dylan on the number plate, that's the guy that owns the car?
Yeah, Jason Dillon. He's been a good mate of ours. We've known him for, I don't know, probably 15 years or so, just through the car scene. So I think when we're getting towards the end of building Tailspin, he approached us if we wanted to give him a hand building that Camaro, and obviously we were getting a little low on funds building our own car, so it sort of worked in well to, while Tailspin was off at Howard's place, we could earn a bit of money.
I think I remember that. You're taking his money and giving it to me.
Basically, yeah, in money and straight out the other one. But it certainly helped us finish Tailspin, and it's helped us start up Perry's Garage too.
Yeah, and so when we spoke about that last night, Perry's Garage really is much about being able to keep your hands on the tools and develop those skills that you've been working with for 10 or 12 years now. Without using your own money to fund the materials, because that's the big problem. You know, we can all build lots of cars, but only to within the budget that we have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We don't do it for the money. We do it for exactly that. Basically, keep our skills up there and try to keep our name in the industry a bit. So when we do want to do something, we're not just nobodies.
And of course, growing your range of tools and equipment. And I often say when I come here now, I think you got more than me. But it's really good to see in that progress. So what I've done is I've grabbed some photos off of this current build off your Facebook page, and then Adam's given me some more last night, that I put a little photo run through together. And part of that was, of course, the nice new logo, mate.
Yeah, we did that logo about a year or so ago with the obviously with the Camaro in mind. So we approached Aidan Donald just to see if he could do something a little fresh for us. We had the Perry's Garage logo, the orange sort of centerpiece, back from, I guess you gave us the advice back when we before we debuted Tailspin. We wanted to have the trailer all sign written, so we actually had that logo out there at that time.
I think it's still nice and fresh now, and of course the colours in that are going to work really well with what we're about to do.
Yeah, that hint of orange, Chevy orange there.
Yeah, so, and then of course the second version of that is Kylie's Fairlady.
Yeah, that's it.
And of course that's her grandfather's, and we might do a little bit on that later in this introduction. So the photo we're looking at now, of course, is the car that's behind us that wasn't looking quite so good back then. So tell us a bit about what we're looking at, mate, as we go through.
So we're looking at a very poor 71 Camaro. That's still sitting out front of the importer's place. Jason bought it from a local importer here. As you see there, so it's missing a lot of parts. It is very rough. Looks like someone's had a bit of a play with the doors and the quarters at some stage, but it's just, it was a rough.
And it almost was a bit similar to how my Mustang looked when I bought it, and it was really about buying the import papers and a shell to be able to build the car.
Yeah, that's
pretty much
essentially what this was. I mean, the price was reflective of the state, which helped. It's a cheaper starting point, but the amount of rust work in it.
Later.
Oh, absolutely.
So I see Kylie in the background there, and you're telling me that she's probably working on your Commodore at that point in time.
Yeah, I reckon in that corner there, she's probably polishing the glass out of the Brock, I reckon.
So you guys are obviously a team, but in this particular case, you've done the majority of work on the Camaro.
Yep.
Because Kylie's been off working on the Fairlady. So obviously starting to strip it down now, and I'm pretty sure we had a visit around this time, and you asked me to have a bit of a look at the car, and I said, well, you got a lot of work to do, that maybe you should look at a lot of repo panels. And once you spoke to the owner, obviously you went down that track.
Yeah, definitely. I was originally hoping I could salvage the quarters. I'd never pulled a quarter off a car. I'd never looked at pulling a quarter off a car, so it did sort of scare me a bit. But obviously, with your advice when you came here,
I remember that, and I said, to be honest with you, it's easier to take the quarter off and put a new one on than it is to be cutting all the edges off it.
Yeah.
Welding through the middle of the panel, because that's a skill in itself. Whereas you got a complete panel.
Yeah.
So, having done that now, how did you find the repo panel process, I guess?
They're better than nothing. They're a good starting point. The rear quarters on this car were great, but sort of as we work forward of the car, quality lacks big time, but again, they're better than nothing. I'd hate to have to start from scratch or even try to repair those panels that you saw in those earlier
so
photos.
Once you got them off, you sort of realised that this was the right way to go.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You mentioned to me last night that you bought all of this through the one shop, but in a lot of cases the quarter on one side was from a different company to the quarter on the other, and there was differences.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the left and rights panel providers, they're different providers. It seems like one company doesn't do the left door skin and also the right one does. One punches out one punches out the other. So there's just differences all through that.
So we're going to have a walk around the car later and just look at where we're up with that. And obviously, as part of my role now coming in from a paint point of view, is to look at it and make sure that things are going to fit once we're finished. Because what we don't want to do is fall for that trap of paint in the car, and then you bring it back here to put it together and things don't fit and the paint's on it. So we're looking up the middle of the car there now. So obviously you ended up doing floors.
Yep, did complete floors right the way through, but the main thing you see in those photos there are the mini tubs we put in it. That's a Detroit Speed mini tub kit. That was a great package, came complete with the templates and everything, just cut it out and weld the new ones in.
That gave you cross members and stuff as well?
Yeah, cross members, shock mounting points, all braces, both a full kit, everything we needed to do it.
Worked out well?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, It worked out real well.
All right, so, and I think by memory you did sills, because there was a fair bit of, quite a lot of problems on the right-hand side.
Yep, yeah, definitely. It had a hard hit in that right-hand side at one point. So, I think the only skin we haven't replaced is that roof skin.
Yeah, and that has its own
issues. It does, yeah. Someone had done some wild repairs on that at one point.
So, like I said, we'll get a look around that. Now, I notice you've been following the Astill Design book by the look of it. So you've got the
POR 15 there.
All on before the quarters and stuff go on. So as you can see behind us, the car looks nice and shiny, but it's all being treated on the inside as the thing goes together. And as you can tell there, that whole rear, I think right back to the parcel shelf was all replaced.
Yep.
And once again, some of the fit and finish there, and you've actually deleted a few of the factory lines and joins, like the lower stone tray to the quarters, things like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Cleaned it up. And me not necessarily knowing, I'm a Ford guy, so I don't necessarily know how it should look. I thought the back bumper looked nice and tight, and you said, yeah, well, that was after a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work. Anyone who knows the 71 Camaros, especially that rear bumper, there'd be like a 20mm gap around it and just all uneven. The line of the body doesn't follow the line of the bumpers or anything like that. So a fair bit of work went into that. Fortunately, I didn't have to cut and shut the bumper too much. I was able just to do most of it with the brackets, just suck it right in and then just change the openings on the actual body.
The bumper?
No, didn't have to narrow. I was able to get away with not narrowing the bumper. Basically just sucked it in, changed a bit of the radius where it went near the body, but the majority of the work I actually did on the body, not the bumper.
Cool. So looking at the underside now, obviously we'll have all of this as we go through the process and show how we're going to prepare this and then what type of products we're going to use as we do the whole thing. So the chassis, we're going to paint that, but you've done a reasonable amount of work on that as well to clean that up.
Yeah, just seam welding it, getting it looking a lot more respectable than what they usually are. It's had a fair few lives, as you can see in that photo. I haven't actually filled a lot of those holes in that cross member yet where the engine mounts a beam, but it looks like it's had a big block in it, a small block, probably a 6-cylinder. So the amount of holes that's in there,
Yep.
it's been through a lot. But yeah, the biggest thing is just that seam weld, getting that seam consistent and cleaning up a lot of the factory welds.
And I mean, it's a big part of the engine bay, isn't it?
It is. It's very
You
prominent.
know, when you look in there, it's going to do that. So once again, we'll be seeing the process we use to now make sure that's going to last and what type of products and what sort of finish we use on that. The rear spoiler on these are a plastic,
Yeah, I think a plastic
composite type product. So once again, it's something me looking at it from a paint perspective, it's quite wavy. So we'll look at that and how we actually go through the process to paint that so that it looks nice and try and do it cost effectively. Well, there's a nice shot of that rear bumper.
Yeah, that's it. I think the left-hand side's done there, right-hand side isn't, looking at that photo. Give you a bit of a comparison of where it started.
Some of the gaps and things.
Yeah.
So a couple of years.
Yeah, about 2.5 years since it's been delivered, but we stopped for about a year while we did a reno on the house.
And you've had a couple of babies.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, this arrived, I was just looking at some photos before, probably 3 months after Paige was born, our first.
Yep.
And then we obviously had Brooke at that time as well, so 2.5 years worth of work to get it to this point here. But yeah, house renos and 2 kids.
Last night you mentioned 400-ish hours.
Yeah, just the my diary there said about 417 hours to get to this point from what
so
we
that's
saw.
all the rust, chassis, body,
Tubs.
all the tubs,
Yeah, flat firewall, fitting up the brakes, suspension, all that
suspension,
sort of stuff.
sort of thing. So I think you've done really well from an hours point of view to get to where we're up to. Like I said, we'll get the camera out in a minute and we'll walk around because part of my visit this time is just to have a look with you with some of the things that I think we can tweak a little bit more. We're doing a street car, we're not doing a show car.
Definitely.
It'll probably end up in the hall anyhow. It's a bit like, you know, chip off the old block. It's a bit like Dylan's other Camaro, is it's built as a usable driving car, but I think if things are built properly, they also can do really well if you choose to take into a show. So this car's been built to be used.
Oh, definitely, yeah, it's a driver.
But it will attend driving style events like some of that. So the plan is to have it all painted and do the 13-part series, and then we'll have it as a rolling shell with all the panels on it at Summer Nats on the PPG stand this year. So that's the intent. So part of, to people to get an understanding, like for me, you know, how do I find a project to be able to paint a car? I keep saying to people, no more projects. This really came about because with myself and the Perrys really is from basically a customer base to family, where Heather and I are now godparents to the children, and we have a very close relationship and we see each other on a regular basis, and Adam's been asking me at numerous occasions whether I paint his car. And when this opportunity came along, I thought this just really helps because we have a very good working relationship whereby we think very similar about the way we do things. And once again, Adam and Kylie are interested in expanding their skills further, because primarily in metal at the moment.
We are, yeah.
And this process will give them a better insight into the paint process, whether it's hands-on or just the actual process. So without getting too much further into that, we'll hop off our seats and grab a bit more footage from around the workshop here to show you the car and explain to you about how this project's going to work.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So explain a little bit about what I'm looking at. Obviously we've got a tank sitting under there, and you've made a...
Yeah, so again with the Detroit Speed mini tub kit, they also do a narrower tank to suit, because obviously your leaf springs and everything are moved in. So that's one of their tanks which has got the inbuilt pump, but they also do this access hatch too. So if you ever got any issues with your pump or anything, you haven't got to drop your tank out, you can just open up your access hatch and in you get. These are another part that Detroit Speed supply. It's just exhaust cutouts basically, allow a bit more clearance for bigger exhaust to come through that section. Yeah, you can see those tubs in there. They're a very, very factory looking tub.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Like you wouldn't pick it with the beads and everything they put in them.
What was that? 50 mil or something?
Yeah, 2 inches. Yep.
Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretty much leave, you know, all the undersides stock as part of a standard type respray, and then these areas in here, Adam was explaining to me last night, just that's the way they were, so that's pretty much how it'll be. And you can see here they're just a, you know, screw-on type setup, so we'll work with that, and then the boot will get a certain amount of trimming done, but the plan will probably be to use like a stone guard or an undercoat type finish in there, and I'll obviously bring all that to you as we're doing it. That's what I like to see, a boot that closes
with the seal.
rubber on. So talking about rubbers, so we're going to do a little trial fit of the back window to make sure. So it's a urethane in fitment with a chrome mould, and Adam's told you very similar to HQ if you're in Australia watching it. And then across here, there'll be photos there. Adam's actually fabricated that area, so I just said to him I want to make sure that hasn't changed any of its shape, so that when we get it painted and it comes back here to get the glass fitted, that it fits. So that's one of those little tricks, and then the same with the door rubbers. I like to have my door rubbers on when I'm doing the body work and the filler work. So it's looking pretty slick. We're going to spend the day today just doing some adjustments, trying to move things around a little bit. Just things like that where I can see something might be sitting out a bit. And Adam's got it very close considering when you see those early photos what he had to start with. So looking in the engine bay, Adam's already mentioned the flat firewall, so you've obviously done a fair bit of work there to tidy that up, and some billet hinges. Tell us a little about what's happening with the engine and driveline.
Yeah, the engine's just an LS2. It'll probably be a sort of 450, maybe 500 odd horsepower LS2. Nothing too crazy. It's a low K's car, so I don't think he's going to bother open up the bottom end. It'll get a fabricated intake of some sort. We're still not sure which one it is because it is going to be a fully engineered car. We've got to comply with all the emissions,
so
garbage
ACT,
as well.
New South Wales,
ACT, Rego. So that's the hard part, is trying to find a manifold that's actually going to do some gains, but also be Rego compliant too.
And obviously you've got some nice looking front end bits in there.
Yeah, well, again, he's carried the Detroit Speed theme through to the front as well. So their front end, which is all pretty good. You don't see much of it now with those big inner guards hiding it all. So
speaking of inner guards, you were telling me there's a lot of work to make them look stock.
Yeah, they're a pain in the arse. Anyone who's tried to fit out the front end of a Camaro, just nothing ever fits, especially with those inner guards. So what I ended up doing was basically filling all the original mounting holes in them, getting them to a somewhat of a relaxed fit, and just drilling the sort of the holes where they needed to be, just to make sure they're not throwing out the outer guards too much.
Yeah, so we're looking at a factory feel, but a bit tidier.
Yeah.
And then the same, obviously, the front. We're just going to look at a couple of things today. So when this goes together, body lines like that, just not quite acceptable, even on a street car. We're looking for something more a bit like this one, that's not elite level, but still, to me, looks like a nice factory fit. So we've got a few little things to tweak today, but in general terms, we've got a really great start, and we're going to work on that. I'm hoping to get that back to our place in a couple of weeks' time. It's been a privilege to have worked for so many years with PPG. With their help over the last 25 years, we've been able to come up with some of the best paint in Australia. And I can say that from experience, having worked on things like Tailspin and also Boss XC, working with these guys to actually come up with the sort of finish we need on some of the cars that you can see there. Whether that's with their help or on my own, we've achieved some unbelievable results with such a great product. Thank you, PPG. Morning, Kylie.
Morning.
So we've covered the Camaro, and of course we talked about the Fairlady. So I've taken the opportunity while I'm here with the camera to have a talk to Kylie about the Fairlady and what she's been up to, because it's an interesting little project. And tell us a bit about what you've been up to and how this all come about, Kylie.
Yeah, so this is a 1964 Datsun Fairlady. It's often confused for a little MG, but it's actually my grandfather's car. It's been in the family for many decades now, so a bit of sentimental value with this one, and I just want to get it back on the road so my grandfather can enjoy driving it once again.
And this is still obviously your grandfather's car.
It is. I keep saying that. It is still my pop's car. But obviously I'm doing the work, and he's pretty stoked to see it getting some love again. And
I just can't comprehend the size of it when you compare it to the Nomad.
Yeah, it is a tiny little car. It's sitting up on the stand at the moment, so it's usually about half that height as well, but it's actually lined up with the Nomad at the rear, so you can see exactly how short it is compared to the 57 Chevy. It's
barely up to the windscreen. Of course, I guess while we're talking about the Nomad, so it's in line to come in after the Camaro. So yeah. Perry Garage is a backlog.
We have a bit of a production line happening at the moment, so once the Camaro is off, then this 57 Chevy Nomad is next in line to get some TLC.
That'll be good to see how that comes along.
Yeah.
So, talking about things being small, I'm looking at the diff here. So you're obviously in a process of getting ready to do some treatment on it as well.
Yeah, so I've just stripped it back to bare metal. I had to take some measurements because it's not actually the original diff, it's a shorter, later model diff, which is a good thing from my perspective. But yeah, getting it ready so it can go off and get rebuilt while we start putting all the other bits and pieces together.
So the process, obviously the body's not in the line yet, but you've been working away on the chassis and all the components. So yeah. I know you've got them stuck away in your drawers over here because you were showing me last night. So Kylie's, I don't know, OCD or analytical or something.
I like things to be in their place.
Which means we get on really well.
So here we go. Top drawer just came back this week of my zinc components. So this is everything I'll need to put the basically rolling chassis, steering and suspension components back together. So
now you do know that they don't go back in the drawer, Kylie, so you don't need all the names on them.
Yeah, I do. I get rid of Ziploc bags. I'm doing my bit for the environment. Whilst driving
and you got a new labeler.
I do. My label maker's my new best friend. I don't know how I didn't have one years ago.
So the shelf above, this is the before.
Yeah, so that's the stuff I haven't treated yet, basically. I do have some new suspension components tucked away up there, but basically the cupboards is where it goes once it's been treated or refurbed.
Cool little SUs.
Yeah, they're original little Hitachi SUs.
Awesome.
So each of these drawers basically has my bits and pieces. Powder coated bits as well. I still laugh every time I look at the size of the control arms when I'm so used to working on Chevs and Holdens. They're just, everything about it is so tiny.
And the powder coat's come so far, hasn't it?
It is. This is the Oxitec. It's a jet black pearl. It's actually got a metallic in it, and it's come up really nicely. I'm looking forward to putting it back together.
So what else you got hiding in there, Kylie?
So the other cool bits that I have in here was always It was always my grandfather's wish to have a 5-speed and better brakes. So basically we've upgraded the gearbox to a 5-speed, so he has a bit more highway speed. But the disc brakes, we've gone for the wheelhood option. And this should help it with the stopping department from the old drums that it used to have. So I showed him these the other day when he came to visit and he was very excited. So looking forward to seeing.
That will be cool. Did that one, the one above, I think. Oh no, the trailing arms.
Oh, and all the rubbers.
So that's all the rear.
Rear leaf spring hangers. Looks like we've got some
Trailing
control
arms.
And just some of the new rubbers, bushes.
And I believe these cars are very big in the US.
Yeah, a lot of the parts are available over in the US, not so much in Australia. So we do get some bits and pieces here, but a lot of it comes from the States.
So a big following over there, eh?
Very.
So this will be something to look forward to from Kylie from Perry's Garage here in Canberra, and they really have got a very wide variety of cars that they're working on. Right, so we've got the chassis in here in the dustless room, and I noticed Paige and Brooke have got their cars in here as well, Kylie.
They do, yep, their cars are lined up. Paige takes great joy in cleaning her car, just like her mum.
So was there much work to do on the chassis?
Yeah, it was really rough. I did have a lot of repairs to do, mostly in the sense that it was just bent in certain places. I replaced the front cross member panels underneath, reinforced them with 3mm plate from a jacking perspective, so it makes it life a bit easier. The back bar that you can see there, it obviously had a hit at some point. It was 10mm bowed, so I just unpicked and replaced that whole rear section and tidied everything up, ground all the edges, just smoothed it over so I don't cut my hands apart when I put it all back together.
So you're at a point now where you're pretty much ready to go together?
Yeah, this has just come back from powder coating in the past week, and I'll start putting it together now with all those components we just showed you.
Awesome. So that's a bit of a wrap from Perry's Garage. So really good to come back and work with these guys again. What we'll do now is Adam's got another week or so of work to do just to finalise a few things. The car will come to us, and the next time you see us, we'll be actually preparing the body and all of the panels inside and out to do that first process of metal prep. And then the second episode, we'll start going into getting some primers and epoxies and things on the car. So I really hope you enjoyed this series. It will be quite technical, and the plan is to be able to put in the description each time all the products we're using, and for you to be able to go and access those, because I find that what people aren't doing enough of is understanding the product firstly, but secondly the type of gun, pressures, nozzle sizes, all those things. So the idea of this program is to give you the information that will enable you to potentially do this at home. If you're in the industry watching, my aim is to bring you exactly what the manufacturer of the product says to do with the product. A lot of people in the industry might say, I've been in the game 20 years, I've never done it that way. I'm doing it on the basis of what the manufacturer of the product tells me to maintain the warranty with that manufacturer being PPG. This is the process, and this is how they recommend to do it, and how they recommend for their registered PPG shops. So my aim is to be able to bring that information to you in a layman's term, I guess, but also we add that information on in our description each show to actually show you where the products come from and what the correct processes are. So hopefully you can join us. It'll run from now through till the end of the year, and the plan is to have the car on the PPG stand at Summer Nats, all painted up, and it won't be completely finished, but it will be an assembled car, and you'll be able to see what we've been able to achieve. Thanks for joining us.